so lovely to be here tonight. What a beautiful life. Give yourself some round of applause. You're so lovely.
I really think we've become much more selfish and much more self-absorbed than we used to be. And I think that definitely ties into, are you willing to sacrifice your freedom? Do you inform on them to save yourself and to better your life? Or do you act on principle and then basically suffer for however many years? Just on an abstract idea. I don't think many people believe in ideals and abstraction as much as they used to now. Things are much more concrete, what benefits me now and in the moment. I think hip-hop is partly to blame of it. Personalities like Floyd Money Mayweather are part of it. We really are just much more focused on the self.
I think you're right. But this is also what I think happened with social media, hip-hop, etc. They started blurring the lines between street behavior and popular entertainment so much that people can't see the difference. Because you have people talking about things like snitching and ratting, and they're talking about it in a practical pop culture way. They're applying principles that you would use in the boardroom, or, if you were, in high school with someone, but not if you're in the street. And I don't want to celebrate street behavior because I'm answering this question as just a person talking about integrity, not about celebrating the street. But you have to be responsible for your actions as a man. So if you get out there and you indulge and you do these things and you reap the benefits, you should be willing to accept the consequences for what you've done. But now, because people associate kind of fake street behavior with this internet clout chasing and everything else, I think a lot of people don't see the value in that. They find it much easier to step back and say, like, that's not practical. Why would I go do time just because somebody did a crime on my behalf? Why would I do time for that when I could just point the finger at him and walk away scot-free? Again, I agree with you. There was a time when you would feel so low and so full of shame because you would know that you didn't uphold the principles that you signed up for. But there are no principles to uphold in the first place. So I think people don't even struggle with it.
This is a time period in which the consequences of snitching aren't rigidly applied. So that in itself empowers people, I think, to more freely do something that was once unspeakable, like snitching, because there's not that guaranteed consequence of it. And I don't know exactly why it's not as rigidly applied as it was in the past. Part of it could because we're in the age of kind of ubiquitous surveillance. It's much more difficult to get away with a crime, especially something like murder. So maybe a big part of that is it's just more difficult of a crime to get away with. And it's not something you can just do in the shadows like in the past.
What you just laid out was a very practical, reasonable explanation behind why, the consequences aren't there. And I get that. But I think what you said earlier touched on something much deeper behind why there's no consequences, meaning that in this era of social media, of self-aggrandizement, follower counts and tracking retweets and people paying to boost their followers. Right now, I don't know if there's ever been a time where the value of self-absorption has been so celebrated. Like, people are encouraged to be as cravenly selfish as they can be. People are celebrated for being more selfish. People brag about how petty they are, things like that. And people's whole value is on how they're looked at by everyone else. Me, 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 me. And I think once you celebrate selfishness and self-absorption to that degree, it's very hard to justify in any case a person doing something that does not directly benefit them, period. So if you look at the anger somebody would have for a snitch, it's like, but could you really be mad if you've already socialized yourself to think that it's only about you? Because if you care about snitching, you're saying that there's a group of people and there's a code of ethics that I'm adhering to that's more important than my personal health. And that's completely antithetical to what's going on right now. So I think you're right there.
Because the lines have been blurred between what's an actual, seasoned criminal that's authentic and what's just an entertainer, you get people that's in these situations where they have to suffer the consequences of a principled street guy, but they haven't lived that life. They haven't been conditioned to endure a long prison sentence. They probably haven't even been conditioned to endure a short one. So it's kind of like throwing a lion that's been in captivity into the wild. They're not built like the the lions in the wild that have been behaving off instinct and having to live or die by actually physically killing and slaughtering their meal for the day. So they're just not equipped, I don't think. It's going to be hard if you're the most hardened street dude on the planet and you can rule the prison. That's still a sacrifice to give away your freedom, so to speak. That's hard even for the one that's going to be the king of the prison. Now introduce someone that is not built for that type of environment, not built for the type of aggression, the type of violence that it takes, the kind of proactive showcase of your dominance. People that are not true criminals, they're suffering in two different ways. It's a loss of freedom and just a ridiculously hard time.
It's kind of like the reason hip hop is watered down, because now you don't need to have a distributor. You know, you can sit in your house with Fruity Loops and a USB mic and record and put stuff out. So the barriers for entry are much lower. So of course you're going to have people entering the market who aren't as proficient because they haven't paid dues, they haven't put work in, they haven't refined their craft. So now, you know, by the same dynamic, you have people who can put a flag around their face and start, you know, throwing up hand signals and banging and even indulging in crimes without actually having to go through any form of a process to get there. So the door is wide open for anybody, whether or not they have any type of heart or toughness or grit or anything. Now they can come out here and indulge in criminal behavior and be celebrated for it. Now, these are the people that you're going to find sitting across from you in the courtroom, or that's going to be in the interrogation room down beside you, and you think this guy who started gangbanging or doing what else as a hobby or just to get their followers up is going to sit here and adhere to some kind of principle and code, when everything about his programming says go for mine, go for self. The only reason he started doing criminal things in the first place was for that same reason. Sometimes it's not even out of necessity.
Right.
There's a sexiness to it because, again, it didn't take that much to get involved with it. Or I throw this sign up, so now I'm affiliated with these guys, and they're really tough, and now by extension, you know, I'm invested with some of their toughness and some of their clout and some of their respectability. But this also requires me to do a little something illegal, but not so illegal that I can't stomach it, but enough that I can affirm myself and assert some type of street credibility. Now, do you really want that person in the interrogation room beside you when they're putting them football numbers in front of him and he has to make a decision over whether to stand tall or tell on you? So you let these people in, this is the result.
But you have street legends, you know, certified criminals built for the street life, even built for, I would think, time in prison because of the work they put in on the street, and still they snitch.
But this is my thing.
Yeah.
I think the social media age, the me first, self-affirmation generations that are coming up now, they result in things like this where you have less principle, or you see less value in having principles. You see less value in anything that can't be measured and commodified like money, like follower count. Because when you're talking about something like not snitching and upholding a code, this isn't something that you can quantify in a way that's going to necessarily celebrate you or enhance your life. It's more you understanding that you have upheld principles that you believe in. So it's about true self-affirmation and then true suffering as well, you know, on behalf of that affirmation. So you have to believe in those things for yourself. You got to believe in honor and integrity as an individual. And that's asking a lot of a me first generation.
And if it's 2019, we're too technologically advanced. We have too many things that directly satisfy us, you know, in the most tangible ways. So that type of mental satisfaction, that kind of mental ambition to uphold a principle, it is second to what directly gives you comfort in this life.
I will say this, though. Far be it from me, I'm not excited about anyone going to jail. I don't have any kind of a pro-street agenda, you know, to give some kind of praise to people just because they're doing crimes and not telling. But I do believe in honor. I do believe in principle, and I do believe in integrity.
I'm not trying to criticize, you know, hip-hop, but we're going to have more and more, you know, pretend gangsters and entertainers because that's what's popular now.
Everybody want to pretend to be a gangster, but when the time is real, they don't want to pretend to be a gangster.
Right, exactly.